Hello and welcome to the Lost in Possession podcast. Now, I have a question for you. What would you say is the greatest thing to come out of Yorkshire? I'm sure I'd get a range of answers there. Some might say Yorkshire puddings, some might say PlusNet broadband, some might even say still. However, how many of you would actually say Erling Haaland? The Leeds-born Norwegian player is taking the Premier League by storm. In fact, he's been taking the world of football by storm for a good few years now. And he is the topic of discussion today. Roll the intro.
Here we go.
Before we begin today's show, I do have a request, and it's a really nice, polite one. Could you kindly please like, share, and subscribe? We'd really, really appreciate it. You have no idea how much that means to us and how far it will take us. So let's like, share, subscribe. I'll say it again, like, share, subscribe, and let's make Lost in Possession the best podcast in the world. Okay, we're being ambitious, in the world. So speaking of things in the world, I am starting this whole conversation is today about Erling Haaland. As we know, he is dominating football and has done since he burst onto the scene, particularly at RB Salzburg a couple of years back. Now, we're going to discuss, could he become the greatest striker of all time, but also could he perhaps become the greatest player of all time? I know this is a topic that many are asking, particularly as Ronaldo and Messi are in the twilight years of their career, and the likes of Haaland and potentially Mbappe are becoming the new faces of the game. So I'm going to start and ask you this question first of all. Are we confident that Erling Haaland can become the greatest striker of all time? To do this, I'm going to give you some stats. Now, don't kill me if these stats are inaccurate, but they're as accurate as I can find them. Now, Haaland is just 22, so I've got some comparisons to make. But I'm going to start with his career overall to date. So, Brian, apologies if I've absolutely butchered that. In 16 games, he scored 0 goals. However, he moved to Mould. In 43 games, this is all competitions, scored 17 goals. And one of those, perhaps in 2018 season, 11 in 24. So that's where we really start to see development there. RB Salzburg, 27 games, 29 goals. Borussia Dortmund, 89 games, 86 goals. And currently at Manchester City, all competitions, 6 games, 9 goals. That brings Erling Haaland a total of 181 games, 141 goals. Now, I'm sure you'll agree that is pretty scary. I have made some comparisons to other players of his age, but first I want you to hear both your comments on those stats. Jamie, let's start with you as the City fan who gets to see Haaland play live pretty much week in, week out. What do you think of those stats, and where do you see Haaland going?
Obviously, it's great to see that sort of you see players, I'll give Dele Alli as an example, has their sort of peak and then drops off. It seems Haaland's doing the other way around, where you said it was Brian, 0 goals and 16. Not a very good record, is it?
But a lot was being spoken about him then, though. They said he was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, but obviously with the goals is what everyone's sort of going, that's where he is. That's sort of where you've mentioned possibly best striker, if he continues, could be of all time kind of scenario. But it's shown he's just continuously going up. And I think you've got to take credit into how they've managed his sort of career as well. Instead of, I think with the Dortmund move was the particular one, because I think United were after him. There was a few others. He could have just gone straight into a massive club, and then he could have fallen down the ranks a bit, or thrown into the deep end. Maybe he's not quite ready, sort of things like that. Where he's got Dortmund, he's got that progression from Salzburg to Dortmund and now to Man City. It is a step up. Can we see him being the best striker of all time? I think it's way too early to say. I'd love it to be. I hope he stays at City throughout the rest of his career and goes on to be that. But at the moment, it's quite hard to see him being. I think nostalgia does factor in this, because my favourite ever striker is R9, and I categorise him as the best striker of all time, and I think it would be quite hard to actually see to move him off his top spot. But in terms of the way he is playing, it's quite surprising. Everyone sort of, I think not everyone tried to write him off, but quite a lot of people tried to write him off, saying he's going to come over, it's going to be Bundesliga tax, and he's going to end up like Jordan's seen, Werner, Havertz, just not scoring the goals you expect. Obviously, Werner's gone back and continued scoring, so that's that does say quite a lot to that. But I think you got to look at, well, like his stats are so impressive. Obviously, it's very early on, but it's sort of, some of them are quite shocking. It's like he's already got the same amount of hat tricks as Hazard, Mane, and Son. Like the Hazard one, he's not made a massive goal scorer, but Mane was banging him in for Liverpool, and Son's been doing it. He won the Golden Boot last year. It's just very surprising. Like, it's something that sort of quite shocked me. Now,
how long Mane, Son, and Hazard were playing in the Premier League as well.
yeah,
I think those three though they're not centre forwards, are they? So that's slightly different. But either way,
but Son
really
and
impressive.
Mane were scoring goals of a striker standard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, stats wise though. Yeah.
So that's where you'd expect sort of some hat tricks.
Yeah, I think before I move to you, Jordan, I think a lot of people as well will go, well, it shouldn't be hard to score goals at Salzburg and Mold, etc. But don't forget as well at Salzburg, he scored them goals in the Champions League. You know, he got goals against Liverpool, even, you know, when Liverpool were at their peak of football sort of excellence. So he's backed it up even at the toughest stage. And he doesn't just back it up with one goal. He seems to whack them in. But 141 goals and he's only 22 is pretty scary. Jordan, what are your thoughts on Hazard, particularly in the Haaland in the aftermath of, you know, these goals against Nottingham Forest? What do you think? You know, do you think he's got the potential to become the greatest striker?
Yeah, definitely got the potential. You look at him, you know, physically he's built differently. He's got the pace, he's got the strength, he's got the finishing. You know, right now he ticks every box. But yes, obviously it's very premature to say greatest of all time of anything. I think he's got a record already. He's greatest striker in August, maybe. We'll give him that title for now. But, you know, let's not get too carried away yet. But for City, you know, there's no question it's an absolute dream start. You know, we're yet to see him in the Champions League for City. That'll be interesting because many have regarded him as the missing piece of the puzzle. Yeah, if you're Haaland, if you're a doubter of Haaland, you know, there's no better start for him really. To get a hat trick in the Prem that early on is phenomenal. To get back-to-back hat tricks is just silly. And he just, what's quite funny is we talk about stats, and he the amount he has on the ball, his stats are actually shambolic. But every time he touches the ball, it seems to be a goal. So it's just crazy. And I remember, obviously, we joked about Lukaku. You know, he got slated for having 8 touches in the whole game. Haaland does it, but Haaland scores. Like, so it's all about the narratives. And ultimately, if you're scoring goals on those very few touches, it doesn't matter because that, you know. So in that sense, he's like an old school proper poacher. To play devil's advocate, he hasn't played a big team yet. Let's be fair. The one big game he had was against Liverpool, and he missed from 6 yards. You know, someone's got to say something bad about him. So, you know, he scored against Forest and Palace, not the best defensive team. So I think it will be interesting to see. I'm sure he will, but can he do it in the big games against Liverpool, Chelsea, Champions League, so on? So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, off to a flyer. You can't knock him. Everyone who's got him in fantasy is absolutely loving life. Yeah, can't argue so far. Good start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right there, Joe. What's scary about him is he doesn't even need to touch the ball. You know, he seems to just need one touch and it goes in the net. If you look at someone like Gabriel Jesus, he seems to be touch, you know, before he can get a shot in. You know, so I think he's becoming a bit of a freak of nature of the game, really. I was a big fan of him even when he was at Mold, you know, seeing him there and just seeing how literally he broke the mold, you know, of a footballer, and he's going to be the next big thing. Where do you think he goes in terms of career progression, Jamie? Do you think I know you want him to stay at City, but he seems to have made the right choices in his development. He's going to the teams that are going to play to his strengths. Do you think that would be better off at City, or do you think he will eventually go on to Real Madrid? or Barcelona or even Bayern Munich? Do you think that's something, or do you think it's important that he stays at City for at least 5 years or so?
Probably next. So obviously he's 22 now, so it's more. I think next 3 to 4 years, he'll definitely be at City. That's how I see it. It's then after that is his choice. He goes, am I going to stay at City? Depending on what he's won, we may have won a Champions League by then. We may not. We might win a league titles. You don't know what's actually happening in that period. And I think the only move I see is Real Madrid, unless. But we've said it before. I don't see Barcelona being able to afford him in the future. I know they're getting money out of absolutely nowhere now, but I feel like longer term they're going to struggle. So that's where I don't see him going there. The only place I see is Real Madrid, because I think he had the sort of comments about him going to Bayern when he was at Dortmund, and I think it got looked on quite badly, like from himself. He was just like, don't put me in that category kind of thing, with numerous other players who have gone from Dortmund to Bayern and the whole German league to Bayern. But so to progress, it depends. If he goes and wins us the Champions League, and then year 4, he's like, you know what, I'm going to leave. We can't really argue with it if he continues to sort of bang in goals like he has been. But at that stage, it might be we're then regarded sort of like, because we've got the Champions League, it's like we're the best team in the world. Why would you want to go anywhere else? It's kind of that argument. But then a different league to prove yourself is the sort of scenario. I don't know how you two see it, but that's kind of where I'd only see him going, is Real Madrid.
Yeah, he seems he knows what he wants, if that makes sense. He seems to be progressing for himself. He's not just, I want out, I want to do this. He's doing what makes sense. He stayed at Dortmund another year or so. He knew what was best for him. Of course, I'll make some comparisons in a minute, but you mentioned, for example, OG Ronaldo. He joined Real Madrid at, I think it was 25, 26. So they got him while he was at his peak. What's scary is Haaland is nowhere near his peak yet, but he looks like he could emulate that. Jordan, what are your thoughts? For example, Haaland has a few injury problems. Do you think that might hamper it? Or, do you honestly think he'll stay at City? Do you think he'll play at another Premier League club? Maybe even Newcastle, if their ambitions are to what people believe?
At this stage, I don't see another Premier League team in the picture. I do think he will probably stay at City, as I said, 3-4 years. It's no secret that he is being signed to win the Champions League finally for City, but on a personal level to him, he'll want to win the Premier League. You're right. At the age of 22, the world's his oyster. He could stay at City 4 or 5 years, win a league, 2, 3, who knows? But I think, if in the next 4 to 5 years he wins the league and Champions League at Man City, which is highly likely, then I think he will be regarded as a legend at City, even in a short space of time. He will feel like he's had a more than satisfactory time at City, and therefore will have the freedom to be able to move on and maybe want to move on. Based on some of our previous podcast episodes, I'm not sure if Barcelona will even be a club in 5 years. They'll probably be bankrupt. So Real Madrid seems like the most logical option. Young kids growing up. I'm sure there's a picture of him wearing a Real Madrid shirt as well. He seems to have quite a few boyhood clubs that he supported conveniently.
Even got a shirt.
Yeah, I saw him in an Arsenal shirt. I'm sure he'll be in a Newcastle shirt soon as well. But no, Real Madrid seems a logical choice. I could also see, let's say in 5 years' time, PSG haven't won the Champions League. He might then view that as a challenge. Like, I want to go there and change and do what Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar couldn't. We've seen he's very egotistical. Luckily, unlike Lukaku, he backs it up. Real Madrid's logical, but to touch on your injury point, that is the only thing really that at the minute feels like could stop him, other than defenders and tactics. But a big injury, I don't know what injuries has he had in the past. I don't know too much about the injury side of his track history. Was there anything major in his past?
I'm not sure. I think he seems to have issues with his thigh sometimes. I think Dortmund, he missed quite a few games because of that. Maybe it's just because he's so big. He's, it's going to happen, but it'd be interesting, to see if he can overcome them. City are obviously confident that they wouldn't have made the move, but also if he misses 10 games a season and he's still getting you 25 goals, it's not really detrimental, is it?
But just looking at them injuries, majority just say muscular problems, and the most amount of games he's missed is 7, and that was over the Christmas, like coming up to the Christmas period. So there was more games. It was less days, but more games, if that makes sense. So it's something that happens, and there's a few knee problems, but that's when you're, I don't know how tall he is, 6'6", something like that. You do get them type of problems. So I do agree that is something that will factor in to sort of, because obviously with the Premier League, there's going to be a defender who's just going to absolute wallop him, and that's going to probably get him injured, sort of thing. But it doesn't stop proper goal scorers scoring. If you look at Aguero for us, how many injuries he had, in my opinion, that's what stopped him getting more golden boots, is because he was injured. His minutes per goals was phenomenal, and it'll be the same probably with Haaland if he continues. It won't be as good as probably 9 in 5 every 5 games, but it will still be I think it'll still be up there with the top sort of players. I mean, it was quite interesting hearing Ashley Williams being asked, obviously the old Swansea defenders, like, how would you stop him if he played there? And he goes, I'd go with a red card tactic. Early doors, I'd just get sent off, and then I don't have to deal with him. And that's like, obviously he's joking, but it's sort of, you can tell now there's the fear in defenders for him. Obviously being hyped up, you're like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And now he's started doing it. Everyone's like, oh, he actually is this real deal. And you've seen him push off, like he's been up against, so it was the Newcastle, I think he was 1-on-1 in the Newcastle game, and it was either Botman or Shah, and he sort of kept up with the strength of them, and they're no slouches, let's be honest, for defenders. And he's managed to stay on his feet and pretty much compete with what he wanted to do. So I think that's where defenders are going to actually be a bit worried. And as you were saying about the less touches, they're going to be worried so much about Haaland that they're going to forget, oh, De Bruyne has actually got the ball. And it's kind of like the Bournemouth goal that De Bruyne scored with outside of his boot, is because the two defenders were like, where's Haaland, where's Haaland, where's Haaland? He's going to pass it, created that gap, goal. So it's sometimes touches aren't everything, but if you're not backing them up with goals, with sort of a few touches, you're going to get slated like Lukaku did. And also if you don't win, you're going to get slated more. So if in that Bournemouth game, if we don't win, Haaland gets the Lukaku treatment. He gets the Lukaku treatment, which is totally fair, because if it's not going for you, you've got to do something. You can't just sit out of a game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point on your tactics. I think you will now. Now he's just hit the ground running. The whole weekly defensive tactics now against City will be, how do we deal with Haaland? And all the meantime, when you've got 2 men marking Haaland, then you've got your Fodens and Mahrez is getting in behind in space. So I think either way for City, it's going to be a win-win. And stats wise, you sign a striker and the minimum you expect is 20 goals a season. He's almost halfway there. So even if he did get some injuries, you can make the case that he's still going to tick that box and probably get 20. So,
another YouTuber, Rory Jennings, saying that he won't get 15 goals.
I mean,
obviously he's come out and apologised, saying he was wrong, which is just great to see.
Oh, he's not wrong yet.
Yes, true.
He knows he's wrong.
He'll be hoping for a big injury, I think.
What I think scary is that he's actually bigger than most defenders these days. So they've got that on their plate, which is a big thing. I am going to give some stats, okay? Bearing in mind that he's 22. Okay, I've pulled up some stats from other players what they got when they were 22. Again, don't shoot me for this, but it's just to give you an idea of what they got. So let's start with Cristiano Ronaldo. In By the time he was 22, in 303 appearances, he scored 102 goals. This is all competitions. Messi, 262 appearances, 140 goals. And original Ronaldo, 228 games, 194 goals. So bear in mind that Ronaldo, of course, was playing at PSV, maybe a weaker league, I don't know. That's going to be some stat to beat. And it looks like Haaland is on course to do that. You know,
What's Haaland now? Sorry,
181 games, 141 goals.
oh, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
He can definitely be in that mix straight off the bat.
So we have to say, like, he's on course to do it. You know, I don't see anyone else being on that level with him. The closest to him, especially in the future, is going to be Mbappe, but he's a different kind of player. So do we think he's going to beat that record?
So what needs 50 goals roughly in how many games is that then? 100?
181 games. So he's about 47 games behind, and he's got to get the 40 odd. So he's probably got to average around 2.
I think
yes.
It's hard to get hat-tricks every game in the Prem.
Favourable games in league or something like that, he could get it.
That might be a bit of a stretch, but that obviously shouldn't be his concern, if that makes sense. Because he wants to go and win the biggest trophies. And I think Pep said it in his sort of interview. He's happy as long as we win. Like he obviously him scoring helps us win, but I feel like he'd rather, like the Newcastle game, he scored. He'd rather we win though, and he didn't score. So I feel like that's a good mindset to have, and that's the mindset he should have, because that's what wins you sort of your individual trophies as well.
I feel like every striker says that. It's probably the biggest lie in football, that they don't care about scoring if the team wins.
Oh no, they care about scoring.
To score.
But,
yeah.
But if you say you don't score and you win, you take it most of the time.
Okay, well, just to sort of round off this one then, before I ask you the simple yes or no, but Jamie, this one's aimed at you. Okay, I know you've mentioned Sergio Aguero, of course. He's probably City's greatest ever player, after Richard Dunn, of course. Do you, in Aguero's first season in the league, he got 23 goals. Do you think Haaland is at least going to beat that? Do you think he's actually going to beat Aguero's record of 260 in all comps?
So 23 goals all
23 league goals in his first season.
League, okay.
But overall, all competitions, he got 260 goals for Manchester City. Do you think he's going to beat the first one? And do you think he's going to beat the second one?
Barring an injury, yes, I think he beats the first one of 23 goals. The reason being is we're a much better team than we were when Aguero joined. That, like, it's quite a long way. Like, we've come a long way since then. So I do think, as long as he doesn't get an injury, but also the problem is Pep will rotate him. Like, we're going to see it in fantasy. I'm not looking forward to it for my team, but we're going to see he's going to be dropped. He's going to be put to the bench because we've got a game midweek. It's going to happen. So that might be where he doesn't quite reach it. But at the moment, you've got 9 in 5. It looks like he will. I know we've got some tougher games, obviously playing the big six, sort of 5 of the other big 6. But there's no reason why he can't do it if he plays. If he played every game, I'd say 100% yes. But that's not going to happen. I don't think he's even going to play on the weekend, to be perfectly honest. So that's how quick he's going to get dropped.
My captain.
In terms of the 260 goals that Aguero got, it just depends on if he stays. If he stays, let's say he stays for the next 10 years, then he probably will. But I do unfortunately believe he will go to Real Madrid in the future. So I'm going to say Aguero is still going to be our top goal scorer.
Very confident. Jordan, just quickly, do you think he's going to beat it for Aguero?
Yes. Barring a big injury, it's hard to say no. And even I make the point, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. You know, the Haaland versus Van Dijk battles in a competitive game. You know, Haaland versus Thiago Silva. I want to see those games, but you'd still even back him to get a goal here and there in those big games, regardless. So for me, 100% beats the Aguero. The short term, that is, in the season. Long term, completely agree. It's hard without the context of knowing whether he's going to stay or not, and it also depends on his personal motivations. Does he love Man City enough to really want to be City's all-time goal scorer, or does he want to win as many Champions Leagues as he possibly can, or as many different top 5 leagues? You just don't know. So without knowing his motivations, I think it's hard to say. But if he stays, if he stays for life, then obviously at 22, the world's his oyster, and he probably will.
Great, cool. Yeah, I think it's more than possible. But you're right; it depends on how he goes in the next 5 years. So this is just going to be a simple yes or no to both of you. Jordan, I'll start with you. Will he become the greatest striker of all time?
Yes. At 22. Sorry, go on.
No, go on. No, go on.
I was going to say, at 22, what he's already done is very impressive. He's got the Champions League. I know he's not won it, whatever, but he's shown in those big games already outside of City what he can do. He's got the physical presence. He seems to read the game well. His movement's phenomenal, and he's got pace. So for me, he ticks every box as to why he could become the greatest striker of all time.
Will he become the greatest player of all time?
No. I think the Pelés, Maradonas, Messis, Ronaldos of the world are just a level above. Obviously, it's hard to say because he's only 22. He doesn't strike me as the player who's got, the work rate of Ronaldo to look that good at 38, or Messi to be that consistent. And let's not forget, I'm pretty sure Messi had like 4 Ballon d'Ors before he was 26. So that would mean Haaland to be on that level would have to win 4 of the next Ballon d'Ors for that. So we've got to give credit to the legends of the game and not get carried away. But he could be in that conversation, yes, but I don't think he will be the greatest of all time.
Jamie, same 2 questions for you.
No to both, actually. The problem with the strike, like the player one, I think it's Messi. I don't see him being. He's not better than Messi. Technically, he's not better than Messi. He will be a better goal scorer than Messi, and that's saying something, I think, because Messi's goals are ridiculous. But I don't think he's a better player. You can score as many goals as you want. It doesn't mean you're a better player, in my opinion. But in terms of striker, it's a hard one. I think it's going to be in the conversation as long as it keeps going. But there's always never a definitive answer on that question. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. But in my opinion, no, he won't get to that level. And I still think it would be R9. I don't see anyone really beating him. But I feel like a question sort of to you two is, does he win a Ballon d'Or? And if so, how many do you think he can win?
He'll win a Ballon d'Or. I have no doubt in my mind. I think he'll win a minimum of 5. I think the big thing for Haaland is that the longer Ronaldo and Messi are playing the top level, the less the spotlight is on him. So he can keep playing and do his thing, probably won't get the credit he deserves. It's all about when they eventually retire, where he's at. Will it all be about Haaland, for example? And I think that remains to be seen. But I also think Messi and Ronaldo's contributions to the game as a whole will be more than what Haaland will, because I think Haaland is solely about football, whereas I think the other two have done more in a different sense, not like through media or branding, but their overall contributions to the game. Jordan, what about you? Ballon d'Or?
Yeah, I was going to say 4 or 5. He's got the hype as well as the stats. He's already becoming quickly. Everyone's talking about him. we're doing a podcast on him after 5 games, so that tells you everything you need to know. He's got the social backing as well as the stats. I don't completely agree with your point around Messi and Ronaldo. Is Messi and Ronaldo going to win a Ballon d'Or this year? I don't think so.
They're not close.
They're
not.
It's going to be your Haalands, your Mbappes, your
Benzema,
Lewandowski, whatever. And hopefully in a few years, some of the young English talents will get maybe up there in that conversation. But for now, I think he might win it on this rate. The rate he's going, if City go and win Champions League and League, I mean, he's going to win it this year.
Yeah. Jamie, do you think he'll get a Ballon d'Or?
Yes, I think he'll get it. I'm not going as many as you two. I'm thinking more 2, maybe 3. I don't think it's as easy. You've got to win the Champions League, really. That's the way it is. So unless you go and win 5 Champions League, which isn't easy, apart from Real Madrid, they can do it anytime they want, really. But apart from that, 5 I think is a very big feat. I think 2 or 3 is more realistic. And I think both times he'll have to win the Champions League and probably be top goal scorer either in the league or the Champions League.
Yeah, very interesting points. And that is about that today. Of course, do feel free to let us know your thoughts and if you think Haaland will become the greatest striker or player of all time, or if you want to criticise me and call me an idiot for the stats being slightly wrong, it's completely up to you. However, I'm going to pass you over to Jordan to round us off.
There you go. That is the end of this episode. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.
Here we go.